Hi, thanks for joining me on Wilderness with Amani. Today I'm hiking into the Mokelumne Wilderness. I butcher the name every time. But I'm hiking in at the Carson Pass Trailhead, and I'm starting at about 8,500 feet. This hike is about 5.5 miles, I believe. I read 3 different things about the hike here, and everyone had a different mileage. So, since I don't have GPS and I don't use GPS or anything like that, I'm just gonna say it's 5 miles and change. I'm day hiking it, and it's gonna be a long, tough haul. It's gonna get probably the upper 70s today, which isn't too bad for not being above 10,000 feet. And this summer's been really mild. So I'm not worried about the heat too much. I just want to get up there and do some fishing. So my knee's been bothering me a bit, but I think it's gonna be okay with this thing on it. You know, I got diagnosed with this chronic condition, which is commonly known as old age. Although you can mitigate the effects of old age, you can try to stay in shape. Old age in the long run is undefeated. And that's pretty much true throughout history. So all I gotta say is a little bit of knee pain. It comes and goes. For today, shut up, knee. Do your job. This trailhead has like a manned station. And I don't know if anyone lives in there or if it's just where they just show up and get things going. Here's the Carson Pass Trailhead, and we are going all the way past Frog Lake, Winnemucca Lake, Round Top Lake, and we're going to 4th of July Lake. That's our target, and that's where I hope to be fishing today. And I've hiked this trail to about the halfway point, which is Winnemucca Lake. And if you start from this Carson Pass Trailhead, you're starting at a high elevation. So the hike, at least up to the Winnemucca Lake point, which has pretty good brook trout fishing, is mostly just up and down. So another option for this hike is to start at the Woods Lake Trailhead, which is at a much lower elevation, and we'll see it once we get up there. And it looks like it has considerably more uphill. Now I'm willing to hike uphill, but if I can cut back on the uphill, I'm gonna do it every chance I get. So as far as I'm concerned, for this hike, and any of these lakes we're going to be passing, the Woods Lake Trail doesn't even exist. The first part of this hike has really good tree cover. So if you do get a late start, at least for this first section, it's not so bad. But it most certainly opens up. And here we are, entering the Mokelumne Wilderness. I butchered every time, and I apologize for not knowing the pronunciation. If that station's open later, I'm just gonna go ask the person working there, how do I say this? But anyway, that's where we are. That's where we're headed. It's a pretty heavily used trail, and it's kind of flat, but there's obviously a lot of rocks in some areas. But you can really glide along this thing. This Carson Pass Trail is known for having spectacular wildflowers, and I've never seen them because every time I hike, they're already dead. So, always cool to see that early morning light hitting the landscape. And I've reached the first fork, Frog Lake, which is right over there. I never caught any fish there. I fished there for like half an hour once. Didn't see much. Ranger told me that there weren't any fish in there anymore. Some viewers in the comment section said they've caught fish there. So as far as Frog Lake goes, I have no idea. And there's a glimpse of Frog Lake through the trees. And it's a really small lake. And I don't know. I've never seen any risers. I've gone out there and looked at it a few times and walked around, looked around. I never really saw anything. And I believe that's beautiful Caples Lake in the distance. Here's Winnemucca Lake is this way. And if you want to continue on the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail, it's that way. So there's ain't gonna be no PCT hiking today. All right. I just ran into a lady who works in that ranger station. She just stayed the night up at Lake Winnemucca, and she cleared it up for me. It's Mokelumne Wilderness. And she says, just say, Mokelumne like Tuolumne, I guess. I probably already altered the name a little bit since I just talked to her seconds ago. You can see some of this stuff. I think this is some sort of paintbrush. That's the name. I don't know, Indian paintbrush or something. But you can see it's clinging. It's almost September. This thing's gasping for air. Look at that big thing of talus that's built up under that sheer cliff. And it just gives you an idea of how long it takes for that to break down and make that big pile of rubble. And it's just that just gets pounded by the sun and expands, and then it gets cold and it contracts and it makes it crack, and then water gets in there, freezes, and the water expands and makes the cracks bigger. And you know, you got your thermal expansion, your frost wedging and heaving, your contraction, and basically all the facets of mechanical weathering and geology come together with flowing water and everything to make that thing just break down. And eventually all that's going to be left is a big pile of that rubble, like it's sawdust on a pencil that got grinded away. And we're about at Lake Winnemucca, and here's the posts that show the different campsites. And they have well-established campsites here with super level places for your tent. And this is a very, very well set up lake for camping. And here's beautiful Lake Winnemucca, and I have the hike and fishing for this lake on my backcountry hiking and fishing playlist. Once you hit Winnemucca, it's a pretty good opportunity to take a break, pound some water, have a snack, because basically you not only have to get over this, but it's about 1,000-foot drop down to 4th of July Lake once you cross the high point. So it ain't gonna be no picnic. Up to this point, it's just been skipping through the woods like I'm in the Sound of Music or something. So here's the fork to the Woods Lake Trail, which is down there, and that's what I was talking about. It just seems like there's a lot of extra uphill coming to this point from there, when I could just go up and down from the high pass. We're going towards Round Top Lake, up and over. So let's get to it. Until you hit Lake Winnemucca, this is the first serious uphill that you're gonna hit. And it's serious, but it's kind of short-lived, because you just got to get to the top and then it's downhill, which means, you know, if you're dropping down 1,000 feet, it's 1,000 feet gain on the way back out. But I'll worry about that after I'm done fishing. And I believe just above those trees right there is Big Lake Tahoe. And there's some flowers clinging to life. You got your yellow ones and your purple ones. And I guess those can last so long into the summer because they're along that creek that has some water in it. It looks dry, but there's still some water flowing under the rocks. So I guess that's what keeps them alive. It's an easy deduction to arrive at since there's no flowers anywhere else except where there's a creek. If there's no creek, there ain't no flowers. It's all dead. One thing I like about this trail, once you pass Lake Winnemucca, it's relatively even ground and it's not too steep. The way they cut it, it goes through a nice little soft spot over this ridge. And this is the nice trail you want. The nice thin cut one. And you could see where it was starting to grow into a double trail. They put wood there to keep people from hiking on it. And hopefully that's enough. Because this carved trail that's all you need. I mean, you're not losing that. Round Top Lake. I actually fished here for a couple hours. I read their Lahontan cutthroat in here. I didn't see a single riser, didn't see a single fish. I fished here for about 2 hours and went around a lot of the lake and just surveyed it. But I'm looking for risers right now. I'm always trying to gather information. You just come out here to a place like this, you try to gather as much data as you can, and that's the best you can do. So if I see any risers, I'll come back here and fish again. But I don't know. I'm not buying that there's fish here. 4th of July that way, so that way it is. And it looks like this has the same kind of nicely set up and flat campsites like Lake Winnemucca does, which is good to know. Here's a big patch of some year-round snow. There's that cool green stuff on those rocks, but I don't know if you can see it with that bright sun. And this snow gives life to a lot of stuff. A lot of microscopic life in that water, I'm sure. Flowers. A lot of stuff can thrive off that ice. Another view of Cables Lake. And this is one of those few wilderness areas where you can see a road from the wilderness area when you're in the backcountry. And I'm pretty far back in here. And that dam right there, that straight line across the lake, I can see cars driving across it. They're far in the distance, but I can see them. I'm getting some cell service up here because Kirkwood's right over there, you know, and it's wide open, so I can see why you're getting some cell service up here. So it's good to know. If something goes south on me, I can make a call. So I believe 4th of July Lake should be right down there. And once you're at Round Top Lake, it's a little bit of uphill, but it's pretty flat. And you just go over this little area, and then I think you just drop down into this dipping bowl. And there's my first glimpse of 4th of July Lake. Loving it. God, this is so scenic out here. Look at this little valley area. This cool tree. That tree's seen better days. But it's still got some life on it. It still has some green needles. So it's not done yet. So far, besides the uphill, this has been one of the most knee and ankle friendly trails as far as just being a dirt path goes that I've been on in a while. I haven't hit a lot of areas where I was, you know, where you're tired and you're climbing over a lot of rocks and boulders, so that's something to keep in mind. That's cool. Here's a look back up from where I came, roughly right over there. So be prepared, because we're talking about some serious uphill. Hiking out of here, I'm only like halfway down. I will classify these switchbacks I'm going on coming down as friendly. It's a beautiful trail. As you're dropping down into 4th of July Lake, you're not too far above it now, but it's really, really scenic. I'm not against having lush green around the trail. I don't need to have just exposed granite at like 10.5. You know, actually hiking through a forest isn't the worst thing in the world. This is a lot like the end of that Summit Lake hike, where I say it's kind of a mirage when you see the lake. Because from the time you first see the lake here, you got a lot of switchbacks to go. So don't get too excited when you see your first glimpse of water, because you got a ways to go still. And I have arrived at beautiful 4th of July Lake. If you like to swim, there's nice sandy beaches, man. And that's cool. And I haven't seen anything big, but I've seen a couple brookies in this really shallow water cruising. So there's definitely fish here. I just don't know how good the fishing is. So that's going to conclude my hike to 4th of July Lake. And it's not a huge lake, so I'll fish my way around this. But it's really beautiful. And that's another lake that I'm able to add in the Mokelumne wilderness. And I hope you enjoyed the hike, because it wasn't too bad. It looks like it's worse leaving. It's what it looks like. It looks like to me, so who knows. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the hike from the Carson Pass Trailhead to 4th of July Lake. And now it's time to get down to business, get some sunscreen on, maybe some bug juice, and get to fishing. Thanks for joining me on Wilderness with Amani. Until next time.